Have you ever looked at someone on stage and thought, wow, they were born for this? Because sometimes that's not the full story. Sometimes the person standing in front of thousands of people spent years serving coffee, working regular jobs, doubting themselves, and wondering if they were ever going to make it. And that's exactly why I wanted to talk about today's artist. Welcome to the Rocking Makeup. Today we'll be talking about Courtney LaPlante and her musical journey. While I share her story, I'll be recreating my own inspired version of her Grammy 2025's on my model. I actually did this makeup for her to go to a party, so it's fun, glam, and perfect vibe while we dive into Courtney's world. And before we start, I also want to give a huge shout out to Courtney's glam team, especially to her makeup artist, Christina Guerra, for creating such beautiful look for the Grammys 2025. So let's get into it. Courtney was born in Bangor, Maine, United States, as the eldest of six children. She grew up in Alabama, and then when she was about 15 years old, her family moved to Vancouver Island, Canada. Moving to Canada really changed her life. I remember that in one of the interviews, she mentioned that her uncle said to her, like before leaving the United States, that that was the best thing that could ever happen to her. And he turned out to be right. One of the persons that introduced Courtney to metal was one of her younger brothers. I think his name is Jackson. Actually, she had a band with him named Unicron. And while playing in the local scene, she met the guitarist Mike Stringer. Yes, that same Mike that is her husband and bandmate. The way Courtney talked about it in the interviews made it seem like a really cute story because she said she remembered when she met him, he was a kid, and then years later, she saw he was developed into a man. It was so funny when she said, like, the term, oh, he became a man. And that she always admired him as a guitarist, as a musician, and being a bandmate with him is one of the best things that she could ever have. The first time she heard extreme vocals was as a kid, watching Ace Ventura Pet Detective. While at school, she discovered bands like System of a Down and Linkin Park. Later, her brother introduced her to heavier bands and the concept of breakdowns. One of those bands was Meshuggah. She admires a lot singers who can fluently switch from string vocals to melodic singing. Her main references are Randy Blythe from Lamb of God, Roddy Walker from Protest the Hero, Sam Carter from Architects, and Krista Cameron, who eventually she replaced at I Wrestle a Bear Once. Learning to scream wasn't easy, and at first it hurt her voice, but she pushed through until she mastered the technique. Courtney is also a fan of Beyonce, showing how her inspirations run. As I already mentioned, in the later years, Courtney became the vocalist of the band I Wrestled a Bear Once, replacing Krista Cameron. If you ever listened to that band, you know it wasn't easy music. It was chaotic, technical, heavy, and it demanded a vocalist who could switch between really aggressive screams and beautiful, clean vocals. She could do both. So back then, people noticed how versatile she was. But there's something I think a lot of people don't realize. Being in a band doesn't automatically mean you're making a living from music. In one of the interviews, Courtney said she spent more years working as a barista than working as a full time musician. For many years, Courtney had regular jobs. She worked as a barista, as I mentioned. She worked at Lululemon, and she also worked in a hospital administration. I think in this job, she worked together with her husband. I actually love hearing artists talk about things like this because it reminds us that success usually doesn't happen overnight. Meanwhile, she was between regular jobs and as a musician. During this time, she and Mike decided to start something completely different. In 2017, they created Spiritbox. At first, it was really just a passion project. Then they released the Mara Effect EP independently and slowly started building a fan base online. I was happily one of those fans. Back then, they were doing everything on their own as there was no huge record label backing up their work. Then everything started changing. Songs like Holy Roller and Circle With Me, and later the Eternal Blue album brought Spiritbox to a much bigger audience. But their journey wasn't without challenges. When a tour was suddenly canceled in 2021, Brent Smith from the band Shinedown stepped in and donated $10,000 to help them recover. That act of support gave Spiritbox the stability to keep pushing forward, and soon after, their momentum exploded. Their debut album, Eternal Blue from 2021, reached the top 40 in the US and the top 20 in the UK, earning gold certifications for Circle With Me. Their second album, Tsunami Sea from 2025, further expanded their sound, earning Grammy nominations and solidifying their global presence. Finally, after years of balancing jobs and music, Courtney and Mike were able to become full time musicians. And I think that's one of the reasons Courtney seems to be so grateful for everything she has today. She actually knows what it's like to wake up early to go to work, what it's like to be at an office, to pay the bills, and also she knows what it's like to wonder if music will ever become more than just a dream. Courtney is recognized for her dual mastery of screaming and singing. Her clean vocals are described as glassy, haunting, and emotive. Her screams are dry, powerful, and intense, created a dynamic contrast that defines Spiritbox sound. Critics have praised her as one of the best clean singers in metalcore and among the few vocalists who have mastered both extremes. One thing Courtney has talked about that really surprised me is something called imposter syndrome. Even after becoming one of the most respected vocalists in modern metal, she's admitted that sometimes she still feels like she doesn't belong. Honestly, that really hit me because I think a lot of us feel that way sometimes. I know I do. Whether it's starting a YouTube channel, building a business, creating content, or chasing any dream, sometimes there's this little voice in your head asking, who do you think you are? What if you're not good enough? Hearing someone like Courtney talk about those feelings reminds me that confidence isn't something you're born with. Sometimes it's something you build little by little. I still view Courtney as a confident person, and I think I believe like from her interviews that the public, the people, us, the fans give her strength, and I think the love of music, the love for singing also provides her that strength that she's living her dream come true. Another huge milestone in her career with Spiritbox has been the Grammy nominations the band has received. Actually, they received several nominations for Best Metal Performance. In 2024, it was with the song Jaded. In 2025, Cellar Door. And in 2026, with the song Soft Spine. And they even got to perform at the 68th annual Grammys premiere ceremony. Just imagine that. Years ago, she was serving coffee, and now she's walking the Grammys red carpet. Epic fun fact from 2025's Grammys is that she was confused with Poppy at an interview. A lot of people would have been probably offended, but not Courtney. She actually decided to go along with it. Since she's actually a fan of Poppy, she answered the questions like she really was Poppy. I still think that's hilarious and epic. Later, she explained that the Grammys bring together artists from every genre imaginable. You're standing in the same room as people such as Sabrina Carpenter, Beyonce, Billie Eilish, and so many others. It's completely understandable that not every interviewer knows every metal musician because, as you know, metal is not a mainstream or popular genre. So instead of taking it personal, she chose to enjoy the moment. I think that's such a healthy attitude. She understood what really mattered being there, representing metal music, celebrating how far Spiritbox had come. Over the years, she's collaborated with many artists and even contributed to video game soundtracks. Some of her most notable collaborations include Contraband with the band Make Them Suffer, In Another Life with Crown the Empire, Vanish Canvas with Era, Shivering with Illenium, and The End of You with Amy Lee from Evanescence and Poppy. She's also appeared on tracks with The Acacia Strain, Before I Turn, and even crossed into pop and hip hop with Megan Thee Stallion. In fashion and makeup style, I think Courtney goes from femme fatale to tomboy style, which is really cool. And sometimes she glamorized that tomboy style. She experiments with dramatic eyeliner. Actually, she always carries like this winged liner and has contrast with these really light eyeshadows and a little bit of depth in the crease. Sometimes she appears with minimal makeup, and her makeup artist, Christina Guerra, she does awesome like changes like in her highlighter, her blush. She really does like an awesome job with Courtney. In overall, I think her makeup style is super glam. I have always loved and respect Courtney, but one of the recent events that made me respect her more is that she stopped a concert at Phoenix, Arizona, just to make sure that everyone was safe. It seems that at the mosh pit there was one disruptive fan. Don't ask me what he was doing. I don't know, but it seemed like he was doing some sort of karate or fighting inside a mosh pit because when Courtney stopped the concert. Then she asked the security people to take him and remove him from the venue. And later on, she asked one of the guys in the concert, like, if he was okay. And she ended up saying something that was really cool for me, like, hey, this isn't the gold medal karate match. This is a rock and roll show. Honestly, a badass. I love her. The more I see Courtney LaPlante in interviews, it's clear that she's funny, humble, and incredibly hardworking. She hasn't forgotten where she came from, and that honesty is why people connect with her. Her journey shows that success takes time, persistence, and believing in yourself, even when it's tough. Courtney proves you don't need to wait until you feel confident to chase your dream. You start and you chase it and you don't give up. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this makeup recreation and would like to see more videos about rock, metal, artistry, and makeup, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to The Rockin' Makeup. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!